As if sellers needed any more reasons to hate eBay, they hit us with a new one, a real gut punch to us veteran sellers on eBay. eBay just announced that they are going to hold payments for all sellers across the board, whether you've been with them for 1 year or 30 years, until the items you sell are delivered to the buyer, and then you have to wait a few days after that for them to process it, and then they'll send it to your bank account, which will take another couple days, potentially having massive impacts on cash flow for businesses. And we're going to break it all down here in this video, and a couple other things, recent developments with eBay that are super frustrating that I want to talk about, and we're going to break it all down. But before we do, I want to focus on some of my selling on other platforms, because as soon as I could possibly get off of eBay, I did, for reasons like this. But I do have an awesome raw book show coming up this Friday, something a little different than we're used to. Vintage raw book keys on Whatnot. Link down in the description for $15 towards your first purchase if you're new to Whatnot. And let's cut to a little clip, a preview of the show. Tons of vintage raw books, Marvel, DC, Independent, you name it. It just goes on and on. This is going to be an awesome show. Tons of keys and even more over here. Tons of Cap, tons of Thor, tons of vintage stuff. Hope to see you over on Whatnot. Also, I have some grails coming in next week. So if you're looking to consolidate some of your collection into a grail, go and do an inventory of your collection and have a list ready to go. It's always a good idea to do a quick inventory of your collection. I guarantee you, it'll spark some interest or some motivation to finish collecting something you started or move on from something you started and never finished. And if you're looking to sell your collection, I'm always buying. I offer especially good prices on grails. I consistently have been able to offer more than I think you would get from an auction house for grails, and you don't have to wait months and months and months to get the money, and you'll know exactly what you're going to get. And you certainly won't have to wait as long as you would if you sold it on eBay with this new development. So I got an email the other day after selling on eBay for 20 years saying, we're changing the way you're getting paid. From now on, if you sell an item, you're going to have to wait until it's been delivered to the buyer, and then up to 3 days after that, we'll start processing it, and then it could take a couple days after that for you to actually get your money. And it used to be with eBay that they used PayPal to process payments, and when you sold an item, if you were in good standing and you met all the criteria to be like a top-rated seller or whatever, you would get paid instantly. You sold a book, you got the money right then into your PayPal account. And eBay, being the greedy, huge corporation, faceless, disgusting corporation that it is, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, if you call them, I mean, there's just nobody that has any kind of like ownership of that company. It's just so far removed from real decent human beings at this point. But anyways, at some point eBay thought, hey, we might be losing a little bit of money on our processing fees by using PayPal. Why don't we keep that in-house? And so they changed it to where eBay did the processing fees, which meant that the sellers would have to wait like 2 to 3 days to get their money at the expense of the seller, so eBay can make just a little bit more money, which, I mean, this is America. We get it. It makes sense, right? But it's just this slippery slope, and it just keeps happening over and over and over again. And now they're taking it a step further and saying, no matter who you are, and I really did my due diligence with this. I talked to 2 customer service reps and 2 supervisors to make sure that I got the right information, because if you go and look on eBay's website, it still says how you get paid is 1 to 3 days after it, just eBay, the regular thing. They haven't updated the website yet. And apparently they started rolling this out back in January. But I just got the notice yesterday, and here we are late May. And apparently it's going to take some time to hit everyone. But what every customer service rep has said and all the supervisors have said is that no matter what, who you are, this is going to eventually affect everyone. And I would like to hear from you if you're a seller on eBay. Has this already affected you? And how does this make you feel as a seller? You've done everything that you could possibly do to be an outstanding seller, and eBay just hits you with this slap in the face saying, yeah, we know you are in good standing and you have been for decades and you've never done anything wrong, but we're still going to penalize you because, and the reason that they're doing this is apparently they're having some transaction defect rates with sellers not shipping books. And it just doesn't seem like the correct solution to that is to blanket across the board holding payouts for people. I mean, it might seem trivial, but like, for example, this morning I sold a $900 book on eBay, and now I'm going to have to wait up to 2 weeks to get that money. I mean, if the buyer chose ground shipping, it could take up to 7 days for them to actually get it, like 7 calendar days. And then it's going to take a couple days for them to process the payment, and then a couple days for them to send me the money. So, I mean, it just really makes you question, like, do I want to sell on eBay? And I actually want to check out my dashboard real quick just to give a little bit of background here. So I have at Bryce Comics on eBay 1,593. I think that's feedback. So maybe I've sold more than that, and that's just the feedback that I got. But I stopped selling on eBay as like a primary thing when I hit 1,000 5 years ago. As soon as I could get off this platform, I did. And it's just because there's so many problems on eBay. And a big part of, and I'll talk about a recent example here. So, you know, it is a very small part of my business. I'd say about like maybe 2 to 5%. For a couple of years there, I completely got rid of eBay. But recently, and it was more like a principle thing. I was just so upset with all the BS that kept happening. And then more recently, I was like, well, why not? You know, I'll get some exposure. And I do sell some stuff on eBay. But like I said, it's like 2 to 5% of my overall sales. I have 1,500 feedback on eBay, and I think like 50,000 transactions on other platforms like my website, Instagram, and whatnot, which all of those are infinitely better than eBay. Now, eBay is a powerful selling tool, and I used it as a stepping stone to start my business. I mean, let's call it what it is. Like, it's not, you shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? I mean, if you're a seller, and especially if you're just getting started, you kind of have to use eBay, and you should. It's just know what the cost of doing business with them is, because it just keeps getting more. In addition to all the fees, there's the BS. So above standard, 3% late shipment rate. Now, this is because I ship everything, like I have like a 1 business day ship time. I've never missed the window. I think this is because like the shipping service doesn't deliver it on time or something. So that's frustrating. You do everything right and you still get that. This I just think is funny. Apparently I can list 10 million items a month, and apparently my selling limit is $50 million. This is not right. If this is a monthly limit, it's saying that I sold 100,000 on eBay. I did not. Maybe this is I've started the listings and ended them, because oftentimes I'll push things over from my website. If they sell on the website, it's removed from eBay. So that must be what that is like stuff that even it's not sold on eBay for sure, but they're going to give me a $50 million selling limit, but I have to wait until the buyer gets the $50 million item before they actually pay me out, which is just silly to me. Transaction defect rate 2. So this is what's really frustrating. Transaction defect rate. Recently, a buyer on eBay bought a slab from me, and they initiated a return request. And I don't accept returns on eBay because, you know what? We're not Amazon. All right, I finally got to use it in a proper sentence here. This isn't try before you buy. You don't buy the slab, look at it, and go, I don't really like it, and send it back. No, you see the exact item that you're going to purchase. You make a commitment and a decision, and now it's yours. You know, you can't return it because you change your mind. So the buyer decided that he wanted to return the item, even though it was exactly as described, and he put item not as described. And I went to go and say, you know, reject return request. I don't accept returns. And he said that it's not as bright as he would like. It's not as clear as he would like it to be. So what it was an old CGC case, and you know, it was exactly pictured as the exact item. It was a newer collector that just didn't realize that CGC has different iterations of cases, and some of them are old. You know, you could have a CGC case that's like 25 years old, and of course, it's not going to be brand new. And so he just thought, he apparently had bought newer cases, and it didn't look like his new one, and so he didn't like it and wanted to return it. Well, that's not item not as described. He got the exact item exactly as it was described, but when I went to reject the request, there was no option to do do so. Because he put item not as subscribed, my only option was to accept the return or refund him and let him keep the slab. Those were my only two options. And I thought, okay, here we go. So it was like a $70 slab. I could try to open a case, initiate a case, spend an hour figuring out how to reject this request, because it was not like something I could just click a button. And then I would probably spend an hour doing that day, and then probably another hour another day when I hear back from customer service. And then eventually they would probably side with the buyer anyways. So clearly the right thing to do was to just accept the return request, which I did. And this is just part of doing business on eBay. You're going to deal with a lot of new collectors, and it's understandable. There's nothing wrong with being a new collector. It's understandable that they'll have questions and they won't know certain things, but they use this buyer protection as a way to treat sellers like me, like Amazon, where they can just return stuff and learn the hobby at your expense, because now I'm going to have to pay some kind of processing fees and return shipping, because he was an inexperienced collector and didn't realize what an old case looked like. So all of that to say, it's just eternally frustrating to work with eBay. I'd like to know from you guys, like from sellers, like, has this already happened to you? Am I late to the game with this information? Because apparently they've been like rolling this out since January. Do you think it's going to have a huge impact on eBay? Do you think people are going to leave eBay? Like, as a business owner, I can't imagine that this would be helpful to their bottom line. I just can't see the situation where they have a problem with defect rates and withholding payouts across the board. My thought would be that it would reduce sales and that their bottom line would go down, and that this would be detrimental to their bottom line. What do you think? Do you think that this is a good move for them? Do you think like it's fair to hold money from people after they've established these very impressive selling relationships on eBay? So that's it for this video. I know it's not a huge deal. So what? Wait for your money. You have to wait a little bit longer. But it's just the principle of the things. And it feels like they just keep chipping away at us, Don't forget, we have a monthly giveaway here at Bryce Comics. If you subscribe, comment, and like, you're entered to win 2 free slabs this month. And sign up for that newsletter while you're at brycecomics.com, and you're entered to win 2 free slabs. Tons of new inventory and stuff coming next week. Awesome show tomorrow. If you're watching this today, it comes out on Whatnot for Raw Book Vintage and more. Tons of giveaways. I hope to hang out with you on a Friday night and look at cool comics. Thanks for sticking with me to the end of the video. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.